college dropout Kanye. What happened to that Kanye? What happened to graduation Kanye?
The Kardashians. Let's just keep it all the way funky. I do believe there'll be some form of football played. It won't look the same, but there will be. LeBron is the NBA. He is the second commissioner behind Adam Silver.
Are we sure he's second?
Commissioner James.
Go ahead, tell America.
I am the Thelma of sports. I love Thelma.
Thelma of sports?
Yes. He's beating Donald Trump in the polls right now by sitting in his basement.
And so was Hillary. There needs to be some kind of payoff for the black women who have become the backbone of the Democratic Party.
We signed a contract. You guys are all here. We did it.
I'm just here to talk shit.
Yes, indeed. I love it, man. Big round of applause right there.
Yep.
The host of the new late-night series, Cari and Jemele, Stick to Sports. They tried to tell him to stick to sports, Heather B.
I know.
They told them to stick that up somewhere where we don't want to go. I love it. Two of the most powerful voices that we have in our generation today. And through the lens of sports, they've been able to educate us, make us aware, and speak unapologetically about social injustice as well as problems that plague our community and our country, as well as give you an expert opinion on sports. I want to welcome them to the show. Big round of applause for Cari Champion and our good friend, the one and only Jemele Hill. Welcome to Sway in the morning.
Ladies. Here. Thank you.
What up, y'all?
Yo. Man, how y'all doing? Congratulations. Stick to sports.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And it's just such an honor for me to be on you guys' show. I think this is my second time because, I'm a citizen up in here. So,
absolutely.
I'm
let it be
receiving
known.
all this energy.
Okay. Come on. Cari, you a citizen, Cari? We got to make Cari
I
a citizen.
am. Look. By way of Jay. So that's that's my play cousin. I'm playing with y'all too then. So I'm in.
All right. That's what's up. Oh, we got to get Heather B on the show. Heather does our sports report here.
I know. I mean, I listen to it all the time. And Heather, I know she's always on Sway about his teams and everything. So, yeah, Heather, I don't want Heather B on the show to talk about sports. I want Heather B on the show to give me a cooking lesson. Because all the food she talks about making, the pictures she posts, just pure fire. So, Heather B, you got to give me some instruction because I'm out here trying to be a real wife right now.
Yo, Jay, first of all, Jay and Cari to both of y'all, but thank you, Jay, for that. But I love and respect both of y'all so much. We don't nearly go into sports in depth and have the knowledge that both of you ladies have and represented so well on every single platform y'all have been on. Y'all always just straight up go up and kick ass every opportunity that you get. So I love and respect that so much. Yeah, me and Sway, we basically use our sports report to battle each other and clown and go back and forth. So thank y'all for listening to that. But Jay, any single time, I love you, I follow you. So yeah, any single time we can talk about food, drink, stuff in the house, being a wife, all that good stuff. I'm here to support y'all in any way.
See, she's multi-talented. She can cover it all.
Yeah, Cari, let me ask you this question too, and I'm glad you brought that point up. When you hear us go back and forth about, obviously I'm from Oakland, California. I come from the days of Catfish Hunter with the Oakland A's and Billy Martin before the Yankees corrupted him.
Wow.
It got different then. McGuire, all those guys went over to the Yanks and started using drugs, apparently, according to their books. But when you look at the Bay Area right now, at one point, in Oakland in particular, when we had the Oakland A's, we had the Oakland Raiders, and we had the Oakland Warriors, and now they're over in San Francisco. But just from y'all knowledge, and Cari, I'll start with you. Can you speak to how important Oakland has been in the past as a mecca to sports, as a sports mecca?
Sway, that's really a great question, and not even just a mecca to sports, but just for Black people in general. I think I used to say this oftentimes because I went to UCLA, and a lot of my folks would come from the town and go to UCLA. And you would feel a different type of energy and a different type of representation that they had for people, specifically for our folks. And when you talk about sports, I just had this conversation because I do a show with Draymond Green. I just had this conversation with him, and he was saying, he was like, the town is the best place. He was like, it's sad that they had to leave and they had to cross. But the reality is that he felt like sports-wise, that was a mecca. That's where you could be your authentic, true self. That's where people truly just love sports no matter what. It's a different flavor, I would say. Like, I'm a Laker fan, so I don't know if you guys know that. I was born and raised here in L.A., so I'm a Laker fan. So, but the energy from there versus from where we are is very different. It's always historical, and I've always found that people who are in Oakland specifically have already carried that mantra that we have of stick to sports, which is ironic, which means I'm not doing that. I'm going to talk about everything. I can think about so many different players who just had their own vibe, their own energy, and they weren't a part of what the regime would be, and they wanted to point out injustice, and that has everything to do with living in Oakland and being in Oakland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what I'll add to that, Sway, is that before the season was shut down, I actually went to the Chase Center, and I felt kind of dirty doing it. I did. I felt kind of dirty doing it.
You should have.
It was unfortunately the first Lakers game that was there. So this is after Kobe Bryant passed. So they did a huge tribute, which was beautiful. But as somebody who's from Detroit, and I swear Detroit and Oakland are like cousins, first
siblings.
Cousins, if not. Yeah. Brother and sister, right? Like very similar setups where, you have a truly black city that slowly but surely is getting its soul erased by gentrification. And so it's really sad for me to see that not just the fact that the Warriors are now playing in San Francisco, the fact that the Raiders have left there. I mean, if I were a Raiders fan that is from Oakland, I would never root for that team again because they did the city dirty. They did the fans dirty. And it's unfortunately where we are in sports today. Why people say that sports is not political. Well, the reason you see these teams moving to cities out of their original locales, I mean, think about it. We went like 30-something years before the NFL team moved, and now we've seen 3 or 4 in the last 5 years. It's a reason why that keeps happening because it's just the ultimate money grab for a lot of these owners, and they're holding their fan bases and these cities hostage. So every time I see something like what happened with the Warriors moving out of Oakland, I'm reminded of just where we are with the greed in sports by a lot of these owners who are more than happy to take the next bag of cash and forget about sometimes the histories, the traditions, the connections that these teams have with the cities that made them. So it's unfortunate because seeing the Warriors move was just emblematic of all the things happening in Oakland in terms of how the city is changing.
It's funny, Heather, how many times have I said I'm really on the fence about the Raiders? This isn't the first time it's happened with the Raiders.
Yeah.
I love the players that's on the team. I don't love the ownership of the team, and so Jemele, I'm going to take your advice on that. I think I'm not rooting for the Raiders this year.
I don't know, Sway. Don't be so quick. Don't be so quick.
Why you say that? What? I play poker in Vegas. I ain't got to go to the game. What do you mean?
I say that because my dad is a Raiders fan from when they were here, and he loves the Raiders, and he is upset, and he can't stand it. But there is something about just that loyalty and that remembrance, because you're a fan for a reason. It was a narrative for you when you grew up, how you remember certain things. And for me, I still hold on to that as a fan. I try to take the business out of it, despite what the owners are doing. I got folks who still say, okay, see you, Seattle Supersonics. So you have to hear people who remember these moments, and I don't necessarily know if you feel like you can't root for them. I think you should just wait. I think you should take a pregnant pause. Jemele always trying to burn down a house like Martin. Everything is racial. Everything is racial. Remember Martin's character in Boomerang? Jemele be like,
yes, everything.
There's one chocolate chip in all of that vanilla ice cream because it is the man. You know what I mean? And I love her. Because she usually is right, but I just was like, let's just take a beat. She'll have you burning down the house.
Okay, you saying I should slow up, Cari? Okay, all right, Cari Champion and Jemele Hill. Take a breath. Okay, stick to sports. You can find it on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on Vice TV. Congratulations to that. Heather, we were talking about Doc Rivers this morning. I want to play that clip real quick. Let's go into what Doc Rivers had to say recently.
All you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung. We've been shot. all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing to me why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of what Doc Rivers had to say, and how often do we really see a head coach go that far out on a limb?
Doc has been very vocal. I think Jay can agree to that, but it's usually Popovich. It's usually the Spurs head coach, Greg Popovich. He's the one who really addresses white privilege and what it means to be a white man in this country and why he feels as if the country needs to take a hard look at itself. But Doc is fed up. He's been that way since George Floyd. He's made it very clear that he is no longer a part of this group where he's telling people to not express themselves. I got it this morning at 2 a.m. our time, and I happened to see that because I fell asleep early. And I literally brought tears to my eyes because the pain in which he is feeling is palpable, and it's also the pain that we often feel. We were filming the show the other day, and I said, Jay, I'm not ready to see the Jacob Blake video. It's one of these things where you got to get your mind right because you already know what you're going to see, or maybe you don't want to see it at all. But it takes a minute for us to transition from day to day to not again. For me, anyway. I can't say us. I can't speak for all of us as a people, but for me. And Doc is fed up. He's been very, very vocal about that. And he is a father, obviously, to, sons, and he wants them to know he's a son-in-law. He's like, we can't live like this. The privilege that we have, everybody doesn't have. His father was very active in the movement, and he feels as if it is his purpose. Like he cannot deny that anymore. And I applaud him for that. I applaud all the players because I often say don't speak if you don't have anything to say. I don't feel like everybody has to use their platform. I don't feel like every athlete, especially within the NBA has to talk, or coach for that matter, because the question was about coaches. But you'll find him, Steve Kerr, Popovich, head coach for the Hawks, can't think of his name now. A lot of these coaches are very, very vocal, and they see the need, and they understand that this country is at a crossroads right now, and something has to change. So you can't be quiet.
You can't be quiet. Okay.
No, not at all. And what I would add to that is that it's like the late and great James Baldwin said, "It's to be black in America is to be in a constant state of rage." And I would also add a phrase to that. A constant state. So what I saw from Doc Rivers and other players as well, LeBron, Fred VanVleet. They're highly paid and they play and are involved in a game that they love, but they're also still in America, and it does things, I'm sure, to their psyche and to their mental health to be confined in this bubble and have to be right, despite the fact that they have stayed on message about social injustice, about voting, about issues that are very important during this bubble, because part of the reason they're there or decided to kind of resume the season was that they felt like this was a great opportunity to educate Americans and to show them that they're putting a lot of this work, a lot of their heart into doing that, and then to see that despite everything they're doing with their own platforms, Jacob Blake is almost murdered on the street, just like they had seen George Floyd, just like we just saw Ahmaud Arbery. The senseless killing of Breonna Taylor keeps happening, even though they keep trying to use their platform for change, and nothing is changing. It's frustrating, not just for Doc Rivers, but for all of us who are in this time of unrest and turmoil. So I think what you saw from Doc is what many of us feel, just this combination of constant turmoil, of constant heartbreak, and also disappointment that this country, after everything we've gone through, we still can't be better.
Yeah. Jamil Hill is here. Cari Champion is here. Stick to sports. I love it. I can't wait to just sit back and pop popcorn and watch you guys on Vice TV Wednesdays at 10 p.m. That's so dope. We got Deborah on the line. Deborah, where you calling from?
Hey, Deb. I'm calling from the Bay Area.
Yay area.
Bay Area. And I just wanted to first of all acknowledge you, Sway. You're fabulous. I worked with your mom back in the day at Highland Hospital. Yeah, Highland. But I just wanted to chime in. Doc Rivers, more people need to speak out. and share what's going on. And people like Popovich used to speak up too and let people know about white privilege. And what makes me want to holler is that people think that this started with George Floyd. And everybody saw Rodney King get beat down, but it was even before Rodney King. Let's go back to Emmett Till. There's so many injustices that's going on, and that's why we are frustrated, and that's why we just, no more. No more.
Hey, Deborah, I agree with you, and you really worked with my mother. If you bringing up Highland Hospital, I'll be talking to her today, so I'll tell her you called in. But I think, too,
Please
Deborah, absolutely, that's more the reason that I want you to support this show. Yeah. This is a very thorough, informative. You're gonna laugh. You're gonna be informed. You're gonna have a whole gamut of emotions. But these two powerful voices drive really well. So make sure you support them Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on Vice TV. Okay.
I will, absolutely. And you just keep doing what you're doing. Much respect to you.
Thank you. You're a citizen. I appreciate it. You see, Cari, you see how Oakland do. If I just mention it, it's like going hooty hoo, and people just gonna show up on the call.
No, it's a whole nother level of loyalty. I'm right there with you. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, we got Ron on the line from Oakland. Ron, good morning.
Hey, Ron.
Man, what's up, Sway? We played a 3-on-3. We had to beat you during back in the 90s.
Damn, man, you been holding on to that long?
We got to grab onto something.
Exactly. Yeah. How you been, man?
I've been good, man. I hope the family's well and everything. But I heard what Camille was speaking on about the Raiders and Doc Rivers. And I grew up in Frisco, and when I was like 6, 7 years old, I used to go into the bathrooms in Chinatown and seen a lot of really racist remarks about us, and I didn't understand why. And I faced them, in North Beach, and they was around, and they called us every single name that you can think of, right? But I was lucky to be around the organization of Chinatown, and they taught us how to just speak up, stand up, and at this moment, at this time, it is so important for us Asians, every other minorities to stand right next to Black Lives Matter, because the civil rights made a ground for us to stand on for a lot of us, and people don't understand that, how deep it is. I have a lot of my Asian friends talking about, I don't understand why they tripping, and they're always doing this and that, but you gotta look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is that what Doc Rivers said. That's it. If you can't feel that, you don't understand what's going on. That's it.
Well, Ron, I think even that confusion right there, the people in your community saying, how come they're doing this? How come they talking about police brutality? How come they're talking about injustice? How come they're talking about inequities in the workplace and all of these different things is more the reason, this country lacks a sense of sympathy and empathy. But I think the other thing is a large amount of ignorance. And when I say ignorance, I mean just people who are uninformed, and haven't really done the research. And this is why, and I'm not just campaigning this because they're on the air, but I follow these two. I know what they do. Cari and Jemele do their show, Stick to Sports. Have all your friends in the Asian community check out their show. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, okay. 10 p.m. on Wednesdays. And a lot of those questions, they'll be able to find a lot of better understanding, because if you make life better for black people in America, you're going to make life. Who is that? Is that you, Ron?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You're a citizen. I'm gonna let you go. But if you make
live radio, dishes,
jump in there, Heather. Talk to the queen, if you will, please. Thank you.
No, I just had to tell him. It was just causing so much craziness and so much noise, and you was just speaking facts. But I said it earlier. I'm just encouraging everybody to support. I mean, it's just amazing, the platform that they have and what they're going to do with it. Big fan always. Cari, do you cook? Cari, I want to just jump in with you too. Do you cook?
Listen, I'm about to tell you, the quarantine got me cooking. Jamel's laughing. Jamel's laughing. Let me tell you why she's laughing. Because when we used to live, we had so many stories. Back in our day, when we used to live in Bristol, Connecticut, when we were at the Four Letters at ESPN, one day I called her. I'm like, yo, come over. I'm going to make you a home-cooked meal. Now, mind you, I was not. I knew I wasn't. I thought she understood my humor. And she came over and she's like, if you go to the Whole Foods Thai bar one more time and not cook for me, I'm talking so bad about you.
That Thai be banging, though.
I was like, my bad. The hot bar is healthy and banging. I didn't know I had to really cook, but I can. And Jemele will say no because we had that one incident. She'll never let it die. She'll never let it die. She get on my nerves. I swear I can't stand her.
She's right, though. I'm not going to let her live that down. And then, another mutual friend of ours, I saw her cook like a whole 6-course meal for her. And I was like, at some point, I would love to come over your house. Not consider cooking to be ordering and or like, girl, I just got this from a Whole Foods. I'm like, that's not cooked yet. Okay.
I owe you a meal, my friend. Apologies. I'll get it to you.
So you got to hook her up, Heather, with some free lessons or something.
No, I can't wait.
I would love that.
Yes,
I would love that. I'm not even kidding. You have to come on the show. Seriously. We should do a cooking segment.
I'm coming. Y'all let me know. We going to hook up. Jay and I follow each other. Y'all just let me know when. I'm about to start following you too, Cari. I didn't know. But whenever, whenever y'all ready to do something, let's just have fun together and have a good time. And let's just do it up. I'm just 1,000% in y'all corner. And I just can't wait for everybody to see. Y'all been ahead of y'all time. And I was saying that this morning, actually, in my sports report. Y'all been ahead of y'all time and ahead of the game so far along. Now everybody want to start listening to what y'all been saying for the longest time. Now everybody wish they would have listened sooner. I ain't got time for that. But I'm here for y'all. I'm here.
I want to say, Heather,
we appreciate
so
that
much. That is so sweet.
One thing is for sure, and this is, this new show, I hope people understand just how revolutionary this is. You have 2 black women in prime time discussing sports, and I put that in quotation marks because we're not really talking about sports, which is a whole kind of ironic title of the show. And I've heard from so many of us over the years when we were at ESPN about, how come we don't have something for just us? How come we don't have, we want to see more women discuss sports, discussing issues that matter. Well, here it is. So you got to support it. Like, we can't complain about not seeing it, and then when we see it, we don't support it. So we would definitely appreciate y'all help in making us the best show in Vice TV history.
I see that happening.
Cari, what's your Twitter?
Cari Champion. Just my name, Cari. Okay, Champion. Sway, I got to say this before you get us out of here, and this is for Heather, too. Been a big fan for a very long time. You've had some monumental moments. Like, I remember win moments, and I can tell you where I was in terms of your career. And I think that it's amazing how you're supporting us, and I appreciate you both for doing that and getting the word out, because we always, like Jemele said, we asked for it. Now that you got it, you got to make sure you show up for us big. Because we have to, in our community, really rally behind those who are trying to make a difference and stop doing this, in-house fighting, as I like to call it. And so I appreciate all the love that we're getting this morning. Really do.
Oh, man, I think you guys are powerful. I get chills. Jemele and I, we done been to the White House together. You know what I mean?
It was a different time.
It was a different time. We ain't been since, but we were there. We were there then.
Y'all invitations got lost.
And it's interesting what's happened with you, Jemele, since and what was going on at that time, and even you, Cari, and you guys have made, to Heather's point, by saying what you say, speaking your truth, being unapologetic, a lot of sacrifices are made. There's also consequences to that. We see that in sports. We see that in sports broadcasting. And you guys have, with grace, surpassed all of those obstacles, all those ditches, all those naysayers, and you continue to shine. And a lot has been sacrificed. So when you say some of these things, I don't know if people realize that part, what gets sacrificed when you go out on a limb to speak the truth, especially in our business, a lot is sacrificed. We see that too in sports. And matter of fact, I want to ask you guys this question. I haven't letting you. I know you got to go. Do you have to go? Or can we get a few more minutes?
No, I'm good. I don't know. We got a meeting at 9.
Yeah,
so we good.
Yeah.
9
Okay. All right, cool. I felt like they was trying to kick themselves out the house. Tracy, did you hear?
No, I thought, I was trying to be gracious.
No, my rap game. You wouldn't even know it's coming, Carrie. But I'm really loving what I'm seeing in sports and what you brought up earlier, Carrie. When you grow up in the Bay Area, it's always this political undercurrent to everything you do. I don't care if you go to get some ice cream. You're being made aware. My mother and my family, they kept us aware, and so I always stand behind folks like a Colin Kaepernick. Who I felt like got ran through the mud, dragged, and now the whole world is like, we see what you were saying, Colin. But look how much was sacrificed when he took that knee. Look at how the NFL has responded, and I don't even think they've apologized to him yet. But they apologized for their ignorance and lack of response to a wider issue that was affecting all those who were employed by the NFL. When you look at the NBA and how LeBron and Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade and Melo and all these different folks are speaking out, in the NBA seems to support them differently than the NFL did a Colin Kaepernick. Can you discuss why that is, and what are some of the differences in these instances when the athletes speak about social injustice and inequities, and you don't get the same support from the company as we saw the NBA supports LeBron and all those other athletes? What are the differences between the NFL and the NBA? Why the NFL hasn't seemed to get it to me like the NBA does? Or am I mistaken? Carrie? Jamil?
I didn't know if that was for me or Jay. We've been practicing. We've been practicing these interviews, deciding who go first. I'm like,
okay,
me?
Okay. Let me address it. Jamil, you go first.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Do you mind repeat the question? I'm sorry about that.
What are the differences? Why hasn't the NFL embraced the athletes who want to speak out about social injustices and use that platform the same way the NBA has?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with how the leagues are constructed. I mean, realize that the NFL is an owner's league. The NBA is a player's league. And a lot of this is based off financial structure. I mean, the NBA players' contracts are guaranteed. And because of that, that gives them a little more power in terms of how they choose to use their voice and what they choose to say. I mean, in the NBA, you're with a smaller group of individuals who have highly specialized skills. One player can completely change a franchise, a city. I mean, look at Cleveland was when LeBron was there, and look how they have struggled, not just as a franchise, but just the downtown area, period. Now that he's not there, bringing in that income. So the players have just a lot more power. And in the NFL, they don't have players with fully guaranteed contracts. It's a league that treats its players as disposable because so many more of them. And given their financial structure, the players feel as if they have to conform in order to keep and maintain their status in the league. And football, I mean, just the way that it's, the way the sport is played, it's about not just teamwork and all those things we know sports to be, but it is largely about conformity and one team and one fight. And so they make the players feel as if, okay, if we're not all on the same page, then there's going to be a lot of consequences. And it's ironic that we're having this discussion because we're at the exact 4-year anniversary of when Colin Kaepernick, when we noticed he took the knee. Yes, it was the third preseason game that the 49ers had. And, the reason that Colin Kaepernick is so dangerous to the NFL is not just because of the attention he's able to draw and the awareness. They worry about his impact on other players. I get asked repeatedly, do you think he'll ever be back in the NFL? The answer is no. They're not going to apologize, and he's not coming back into the NFL. And I hate saying that, and trust me, I hope more than anybody that I'm wrong. But the reality is that they're afraid to have somebody like Colin Kaepernick in an NFL locker room, not just because of the attention he'll receive, but because how he will inspire all those other guys in the locker room who suddenly will see or become more aware or more empowered to speak up, not just about.
But Jay, he's already done that. But he's already done that.
But what's happening in the league itself? I mean, this is a league with only 3 black head coaches, and now two black general managers. The fact that it was just, in the last month that the Washington football team hired the first black team president in NFL history, that is embarrassing. So that's what the NFL doesn't want to deal with. You know, as much as they can make all these cutesy statements about Black Lives Matter, and that's great, Roger Goodell, but Roger Goodell nor any of the owners can deal with the racism in their own league, and that's.
I think that I honestly believe that Colin Kaepernick wouldn't work there. Jay and I had this conversation. I know that sounds crazy, and I know he says he wants a job, but he couldn't work there. Could you guys ever be in a relationship where you weren't wanted? Even if they did succumb to the pressure and decide to give him a gig, right? Let me give you a job. You go work for the blackest coach in the blackest neighborhood and do the blackest things, and you should be okay and safe. He still would have to capitulate because he doesn't own the team, if you will, which I hate that name, but he doesn't have that power. And yes, he will influence the players, but the time has passed. He's become a leader, whether he wanted to in the beginning or not. He is now a leader, and he will not be able to adhere to their rules. The rules could be simple. You know, they could be, you got to be here and do this. Okay, you can stay in the locker room for the national anthem, but at the end of the day, your spirit will not allow you to be someplace where you know you're not wanted, when you know your simple, basic freedoms are being infringed upon. So he wouldn't, I think, personally, if it was really push come to shove and he got a gig, he'd go in there with his own list of demands. They'd be like, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? And then the thing with the players, like she said, it is money. That's why they're afraid, because their contracts aren't guaranteed, and the average is maybe 3 to 5 years for an NFL player. For the NBA, money is guaranteed, but I'll tell you what has happened. The WNBA actually started speaking out first. The women started speaking out first in their own way. They always have been, as black women are, more aware in so many different ways, and understanding the need to speak to injustice, without anything to lose, because they don't have anything to lose in the WNBA if you think of money and things of that nature. However, LeBron has empowered, I believe, this is my personal opinion, a player of that stature with so many endorsements and so much money. When he came out in 2016 and said, when he was playing for the Cavs, my state got it wrong because they voted for Trump. I hate to tell y'all got it wrong. Knowing that the owner of the Cavs was a Trump supporter, they had the RNC in the stadium there. He was very vocal and bold, and he stayed that way. And they saw that nothing happened to him because he just expressed his opinion, but he was more powerful than the game. So he could say what he wanted to say. And so that's what we need to realize. There's unity in our words, which also gives us our power. And he was like, I don't care, I'm saying it. And it took him a long time to get to that point. He had to graduate to the point where he could actually speak out on things and have his own opinion, because people were getting on him when he was in Miami. He didn't speak out about certain things. But everyone doesn't know right away. It hits you when it hits you. And so I believe he led that. He led that movement in terms of speaking out and saying what he wanted to do. And the other players followed suit. It's common. He's, as we said in our keys, he's Commissioner James.
Commissioner James, I like that. Round of applause for Commissioner James, because it just, and I noticed LeBron's so powerful. He didn't lose no endorsements, none of that. Colin Kaepernick had a whole nother experience, and it's all bewildering to me. Cari Champion, Jemele Hill are here. Tracy, you want to jump in?
Oh, my gosh, absolutely. Both of y'all ladies, we have such a deep appreciation for y'all hearts, but I got to give a major shout out to y'all brains, teaching me words like capitulate, always reminding me that, that books are your best friends for a reason. So just thank you for that. Y'all are both so well read. And so I want to know for you, Cari, maybe the most recent book that has really expanded your way of thinking. And then also, Jemele, I saw you had recently tweeted about a book from, I believe her name is Isabel Wilkerson, Cast. And I know some folks were once you bring up the word Nazi, because you said that in your opinion, the United States wasn't nearly as bad as Nazi Germany. And you read this through that book. For you, Jemele, if you can just further explain what you learned and what you meant by that, since it seemed to be misread by others.
That's funny because we're gonna talk about that on the show. Yeah. I think we're gonna have that's gonna be funny. I love that you brought it up. Jay, real quick, I'll just say because Jay's book is far better than mine. My book is on some. Let me work on my inner self and dealing with people. I read Untamed with Glennon Doyle.
Oh
I don't know if you guys
me
are...
too. I love her.
Okay.
That's one of my top 5 white women, man.
Yeah,
Shout out
exactly.
To
All right.
And the reason,
Wow.
We want her on the show. She's right. She's in there. She's a citizen. And look, I'm telling you because she started. I don't know if you guys remember a campaign called Share the Mic. And it was and so I was a part of it. But she and Lovey also is another author. She's Nigerian, and she also started this campaign where they were like, "Y'all give up your platforms if y'all really want to hear about what's going on in the community, and you Black women come and be yourselves and be unapologetic because, I don't know if you know this, but Black women have a hard time getting along with white women in the workspace and in general. We have a low tolerance for their." I don't know if I want to call it passive-aggressive behavior, but sometimes we often find ourselves being like, I'm not dealing with that. Or, Antonio Brown one time tweeted, I'm off white women in 2020. And I was like, okay, me too. So I understand this struggle. But then I meet her, and she talks about the differences between white women and Black women and how we are socialized and how we are raised. And what happens is that we take those behaviors into the workplace, and we then feel some type of way. I know I do. I can't speak for all Black women. I do feel some type of way if I have a boss who reminds me of an Amy Cooper, if you will. And so this book and her spirit is powerful, and it's healing, and it's very progressive, and it's about togetherness. So I respect it all. You know what I mean? So I'm reading Untamed. I suggest everyone read it. It's good for the soul.
Okay. All right. Unchained. Okay. All right. And who was left? Did Jemele speak?
Jay. She got Jay got a book.
Yeah.
Jay,
Yeah. I was like, she Isabel Wilkerson is one of my favorite authors, and her latest book out is called Cast, and her previous book, Warmth of Other Suns. If you have not read this book, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's one of the best books ever on race in America, which she breaks down through the migration patterns. But let me get to Caste. So Caste is where Isabel Wilkerson compares the caste systems that are clearly in place in the United States that we don't acknowledge or recognize versus the caste system in India and also in Germany during the time of Nazi reign. And a caste system is simply this. It's a hierarchy. It's a way that in which we've all been prescribed to a certain lot in our in wherever we live in our lives based off the systems in this country. As a Black man, as soon as you are born, you are a threat. As a Black person, that there's a dignity and an inhumanity that you will face. We have this system in America where we slot people, and that's what she spends hundreds of pages addressing. So when I said this, let me clarify this tweet. I hope people understand something very simple. It's called a verb tense, where I use the word was because I was referring to America's racial past, particularly slavery and Jim Crow. And maybe people out there don't know this, but the Nazis learned how to persecute the Jews through our systems of oppression in America. Hitler was an admirer of the fact that the Americans persecute Black people for hundreds of years, and yet when it comes to the world, people looked at America as the ideal. So he's trying to figure out how is it that this country is doing this to these citizens, segregating them, murdering them, raping, lynching them, and yet the rest of the world, America is the ideal democracy. So there were not scholars, people within the ranks of the Nazi hierarchy who came to America and studied the Jim Crow South. And the Nazis, for a few comparative examples, the Nazis took the 1/16 rule, the 1-drop rule from us, and they instituted that. The 1-drop rule being if you had 1 drop of Black blood, that you were Black. They took that from us. We study eugenics, which is this idea of race purity. We have built an entire system, racial hierarchy, or I should say racism, off the idea of pure white blood. We've done this throughout our time in American history. If you picked up a book, that's what the Nazis did as well, criminalizing immigrant heritage, We did that. Nazis did that. Matter of fact, it wasn't until 2000 that Alabama, the last state to delegalize interracial marriage. It's 2000. That's 20 years ago. So as my frustration with our country sometimes, why we can't get past the racism in this country is because we don't tell the truth about our history. You know, we don't have a comprehensive education when it comes to slavery. We don't understand that when black men were lynched in this country, that there were sometimes thousands of onlookers. It was treated like you were watching an NBA game, all right? That's what used to happen to black people in this country. Or the terrorism that black people face post slavery. It was real. The many different laws that they had in different states and cities where a black person couldn't even be on the same side of the sidewalk as somebody who was white. We had to step off the sidewalk and walk in the street if somebody white was coming our way. That used to be a rule. So when we get this idea that, yeah, do live in a great democracy, but when we start looking down our nose at other countries and other terrorist regimes, and even what happened in Nazi Germany and thinking we are so much better, I would encourage you to read a book about slavery and find out all the atrocities. Could it be the biggest difference? And this is not at all to diminish disrespect what the Jews have gone through. 11 million Jews persecuted. That's undeniable, and that's horrific things that happen in history. But the only difference between us and the Jews is that they need us for economic labor. And obviously the Nazis had an intentional, horrific to exterminate them. The only reason we were alive is because we were a source of labor and income, and that was it. A lot of similarities between the Nazi regime and what happened in America. And Isabel Wilkerson is the first historian to write about this. Many historians have written about the similarities between slavery and the Holocaust.
Jemele Hill. Wow. Jemele Hill and Cari Champion. And listen, and this is why we listen and follow you. All this information, and I want to encourage all our citizens to make sure you do that deep dive that she's advising you to do. You know, normally we do political news right here, Cari and Jemele, with Mike Muse, but you know, I told Mike Muse just to jump on with us and join the conversation. So Mike Muse is here. Give him a big round of applause. I know we only got a few minutes left. I didn't want to take all this time. You know, Cari, he watched the RNC last night. He wanted to, you know, he wanted to talk about it.
Hey, what's up, Cari and Jemele? Congratulations on everything, man. I'm so happy for you guys.
Hey, what's going on? First of all,
Thank you, Mike.
that you had to watch it. My bad.
I know. Yeah, that's the other thing. And Jemele, from one Michigander to the other, what up, though?
What up, though?
I'm from
Mike, give us your takeaways last night. What you learned or not learned?
I love it.
Well, I think what I learned is that the Republican Party, and in particular the Trump administration, is not afraid to blur the line of legality and how comfortable they are with throwing that in your face and how comfortable they are with pushing the limits, particularly when it comes to the Hatch Act, and particularly when it comes to blending that line of using federal property, federal buildings, in particular thinking about the White House as a backdrop to serve their political needs and interests. We've never seen that done before in any party, Democrat or Republican, in terms of how they're willing to use it for their own personal benefit. And there's nothing like seeing that on display that we saw in the White House. And it is amazing in terms of how much President Trump has been able to really take a stronghold on the Republican Party. You know, Joe and Cari, we've been talking about it from assessing there's a Democratic Party, Republican Party, and then there's a MAGA Party, right? There's almost three different things. Like the MAGA Party is a Tea Party like times 10. And it's amazing how within the 30% range has been able to have such a stronghold on the Republican Party because at its core, Joe and Cari, I still believe that the Republican Party believes in our democracy, believes in the value of our systems, believes in the infrastructure of what America is, but they have such a fear of the 30% that they are willing to allow in our face with beautiful lighting, beautiful pageantry, to have our democracy undermined right in front of us.
Well, I'm glad you feel that hopeful that they still believe in those values because I'll be honest, I mean, I just think the great majority of Republicans are cowards. The power means more. They have chosen party over country, and there's no mistaking about that. And, you know, what's sad to see, especially what's been illuminated throughout this RNC so far is that when you look at the type of people that they're giving a platform to, it sends a message about who they think America is and what they think a real American is. And people shouldn't be confused about that.
But that's your point. But your point, Jamil, I think that's why we haven't seen a lot of the moderate Republicans, the Republicans that we typically would see at the forefront of the Republican Party convention. We haven't. What we've seen is that MAGA wing of the party emerge, right, and be front and center, right, and that's kind of how like the MAGA is taking front and center, like. The moderate Republican wing that we're used to seeing pre-Trump, we're not seeing anymore, right? But and to your point is that cowardness and literally them being afraid of that 30% of being primaried. And we're seeing the underbelly of politics, right? We're seeing now the underbelly, what used to be the underbelly, actually come to the forefront, right? And so it's all about maintaining control, maintaining your seat, right? Maintaining re-election. We're just seeing that on display right in front of us, not even just this convention, but just in the last 2 or 3 years that Trump has been in office.
Yeah, well, they're using scare tactics too. They're running in fear. They're using fear to get people to pay attention. And, you know, Jemele pointed this out last week when she felt that Joe Biden at the DNC was trying to get the moderate. He's like, stop it. That's not the base. Those who are in the middle don't care. And what Trump is doing now, especially with rioting, he was excited what was happening in Wisconsin, because if he can run on fear, the study shows that most who are in the middle don't like nonviolent, don't like protests that are violent. So if they're nonviolent, okay, I'm going to go with the Democrats. But if they're violent, okay, I see what you're saying. Thank you, Republicans. Y'all going to help me. I think that we're seeing him use fear tactics that have been used before, and it's pretty disgusting because they always fall for it because they want to. You know what I mean? They don't want to know anymore. They want to believe what they want to believe. They want to believe this country is a great place. They want to believe that, you know, our forefathers really care for everybody and racism really isn't an issue. And but things like this, these conversations, we have to continue to have them and be unapologetic and make everybody uncomfortable, because that's the only way something will change. If you stay in a level of uncomfort, you will want change.
Well, it's interesting, Cari. We talked about uncomfortability this morning during the first part of our political break, and and having conversation that exists in the gray is really how you advance American society. But to what you're talking about is what President Trump and the current MAGA wing of the Republican Party is really leaning into for an electoral victory. And I use that word very specific in intentionality. I think a lot of times people get caught up in a whole popular vote, and it really comes down to a key 5 to 8 key states, right? And if you can play into those key states and really tap into that narrative of xenophobia, that gives you a competitive advantage in electoral map, right? I think people have to really understand the civic lessons of the electoral college and understanding how a president really gets elected versus the popular narrative, to which we're seeing on social media, right? Which there's a disconnect between the popularity of social media versus how that translates to electoral college. But that's what this current campaign from the Trump has really been able to tap into is that.
Cari Champion, thank you. Jemele Hill, thank you. And before you go to that point, while you guys are having this discourse, I'm just sitting here thinking about how many of my friends I've spoken to who said they're not going to vote. What are your thoughts on that, Jemele?
So that's what you just heard me say. Wow, is that look? This is what you know, and I'm sure Mike has probably been through some of this before. This is what Black people need to understand. We don't need to outsmart this one. We saw what happened when we stayed home in 2016. You not voting is a vote for Trump. We don't have that option. I know that there have been a lot of people who are saying, like, well, what are we getting out of this and this and that. I tell you what you don't want out of it. You don't want 4 more years of Donald Trump. You absolutely do not want that. Not just about who's president. You have to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture is Donald Trump could get up to 4 more Supreme Court appointments in this next office. It could happen. You don't want conservatives, right-wing conservatives, far-right conservatives controlling the courts. Him and Mitch McConnell have completely undermined our judicial system with these judicial appointees, many who are unqualified, a lot of them who have non-progressive ideals that will make things worse than it is. So this is not just about getting Donald Trump out of office. This is about setting a tone for this nation, especially in our judicial system. If criminal justice is important to you, then you need to vote against Donald Trump. and he's going to tout out the First Step Act and get you to believe that he really cares about criminal justice when there's a lot of issues with that act, in particular how it's being applied, because best believe Attorney General William Barr, he is not in favor of the First Step Act. Many of the people in early release have found many of the incarcerated who are available for early release have found their releases stunted because of the handiwork of William Barr. He has not done more for black people than any other president. That is a lie. And this can easily be proven by facts. So all these conversations that we're getting into, some of them ignorant about Kamala Harris, we have to really block out the noise. There are plenty of stories that have been written about how the Russian interference has seized upon the black vote and black voters in particular, because they're trying to get you to do two things: argue to the point where you become so disillusioned that you don't vote, or suppress your vote in another matter, as we see the president doing when he's talking about mail-in balloting. Even though he himself has voted by mail-in, it's funny how suddenly it's not secure enough. Just think about this, people. They send millions of dollars from the IRS through the mail. That's totally safe and secure, but somehow your ballot isn't. Just do the math on that one. So black people, we need to understand that we need a historic Obama-level turnout to get this guy up out of office.
Jemele Hill. Cari, you want to close for us?
Oh, no, I was just going to say I definitely agree with her. I hate the idea of people, feeling as if this isn't our candidate. There's no perfect candidate, but we don't want Obama. I mean, we don't want Trump. And what she's saying is correct. Like, we need to have an Obama turnout. I don't know how people feel like they don't need to vote. It's so important. It's like our life depends on it. And we really, truly, you wouldn't hear so many people talking about it if it wasn't important. So if you get that message across to your citizens, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. You just did. Cari Champion. Give them a round of applause. Jemele Hill. Well, we just did your show. I feel like we just did y'all show.
You did. Thank you. We off. We don't have to work tonight. We done.
You got to work tonight. Stick to sports. Man, make sure y'all watch this on Vice TV Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern. As you can see, it's full of great information, and you're gonna walk away feeling like you had a holiday meal. Mike Muse, I already see that. And then Mike, tell people how they can reach you, Mike. Thanks for joining the convo.
Yeah, of course. Congratulations, Jemele and Cari. Can't wait to tune into the show. Citizens, hit me up at I am Mike Muse, M-U-S and Sam E on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, and then Cari and Jemele, y'all want to give out your social handles so people can reach y'all directly?
Yeah, mine is pretty boring. Just my first and last name, Jemele Hill.
Okay. Mine is Luscious Lips at, no, I'm kidding. Mine is my name, Cari. This is my name, Cari Champion. That's it, at Cari Champion. That's how you find.
All right, cool. And then I know Heather had to go into to Urban View, so she's on Heather B Live right now on Channel 126. We want to thank Robert Glasper for being on. Get his new song at midnight, Better Than I Imagined. If you want to reach Tracy G, let her know how they can reach you, Tracy.
Yeah, hit me up Twitter, Instagram. That's where I'm at, citizens, at It's Tracy G, ITSTRACYG.
Okay, great. Cari, Jemele, I can't wait till we go all hang out and have these conversations in person. Okay?
All right, same here. Take care.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
absolutely. All right, can't wait to watch. And I'm at Real Sway across the board. You guys can reach me, and if you want to hear these interviews in its entirety, go to SiriusXM.com/.
On demand.
Thank you, Tracy. Or you can find it on the YouTube channel, Sway's Universe. Thank you for tuning in. We got to go. And until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to the Sway in the Morning team. Laura, you did a great job. Welcome back. Pandora, Sirius XM. And on that note, we have nothing left to say.